As the early morning sun crept its way over the eastern horizon at approximately 0550 hours on June 16th, D+10, a diminishing trail of dark black smoke could be observed lingering over the French countryside near the tiny farming hamlet of Albeit. Although each day's dawn tended to reveal multiple such examples of burning debris throughout the Norman battlefront, this particular instance was reason for concern simply because Albeit was some 4 kilometers northwest of current Allied positions. In other words, behind American lines. Complicating matters was the fact that a U.S. Field Artillery Mortar Company was scheduled to pass near Albeit overnight en route to the front from Omaha Beach. It failed to reach its destination. Being that no Allied command post or garrison was otherwise billeted in this obscure farmstead due to its location within a sunken vale well off the beaten path, information in the area was therefore limited. Given the situation, Combat Command opted to dispatch a staff jeep in order to investigate. As of 0800 hours, neither the jeep nor the artillery unit could be accounted for. Stationed in reserve near the Mulberry Landing Zone was Captain Jonathan Dorn and Company B, 3rd Battalion of the U.S. 1st Infantry Division. Due to the circumstances, he and his men were subsequently ordered to mobilize. Their mission? Proceed towards the Val d'Almont, sweep the area, locate the truant mortar company, and if need be, eliminate any enemy stragglers that may have eluded detection during the Allied advance from the Normandy beachhead.
Due to the amazing efforts of the naval amphibious assault groups, an incredible amount of men and material had already been offloaded from the vast armada of ships offshore. Because of this, my unit had access to the transport vehicles and supplies needed in order to proceed with our orders immediately. We were thankful we didn't have to hoof it all the way to our objective and arrive there exhausted. However, the expeditious nature of our orders had me a little puzzled. I thought to myself, if we detect any German soldiers at all, they'll probably be nothing more than the ragtag remnants of shattered units that the First Army has simply bypassed. Boy, was I ever in for a surprise.
Traveling along Route D54, the same gravel-topped rural access road utilized by the American Mortar Unit the evening prior, Captain Dorn ordered Lieutenant Eric Campbell, his executive officer, to leap ahead of the column in order to reconnoiter the situation ahead. Campbell did so utilizing a jeep armed with a .30 caliber machine gun. As the team approached Hill 146, the largest of the bluffs overlooking Albeit, the vehicle came to a sudden halt. Up ahead was the source of the smoke, the smoldering wrecks of a small convoy of vehicles. They had found the missing artillery unit, plus a single jeep that had careened off the road and piled into the bocage, the likewise absent regimental scout. Upon assessing the situation, Campbell recommended that they do an immediate about-face and get the heck out of Dodge. At that instant, however, a single round from a German sniper rifle wounded the driver in the shoulder. This left them vulnerable to further attack since the jeep could not be steered effectively. Having caught a glimpse of where the muzzle flash originated, Campbell directed his gunner to mount the .30 caliber and pepper the tree line atop the bluff. After a few bursts of machine gun fire, no retort was forthcoming from the lone enemy sharpshooter. Campbell hastily returned to the approaching column to impart his observations.
Upon hearing Lieutenant Campbell's report, I elected to halt the column and have the troops disembark well short of the hilly knolls surrounding Albeit. Not knowing the actual composition of the enemy element before us, I ordered all 4 of the platoons under my command to advance, using the rolling terrain surrounding the vale as cover. I felt that this would be the better part of valor, since the battered condition of the artillery convoy suggested that our foe was something more than just a lone sniper or a stray anti-tank team.
The caution exercised by Captain Dorn was well warranted. The immediate area in and around Albeit was teeming with a piecemeal collection of surviving enemy soldiers from the previous 10 days of battle for control of the Norman countryside. Awaiting Company B were composite elements of the German 914th Infantry Regiment, along with 2 armored fighting vehicles which managed to survive the fighting by hiding beneath impromptu haystacks or within field collection barns. This improvised force of Wehrmacht soldiers and armor was quickly assembled some 2 days prior by Lieutenant Ernst Eckel.
Mein Bataillon wurde in der Nähe von der Küste von Normandy am D-Tag aufgestellt, als die verbündete Invasion begann.
My battalion was stationed near the Normandy coast on D-Day, when the Allied invasion began. We didn't receive orders to engage the enemy forces coming ashore until the 2nd day because of the chaos being created, in country, by the American paratroopers that had landed in the hours prior to the invasion. By the time we finally met the American assault, they had already established a strong beachhead.
Ihre vereinigte Infanterie, Rüstung, Artillerie und Luftmacht.
Their combined infantry, armor, artillery and air power simply ravaged our units over the course of the next week. There were many casualties. My own company commander was killed on the very first day of this action. What was left of my battalion was forced to scatter and either melted back into the countryside or was captured outright.
Mehrere von uns fanden unseren Weg zu Albeit.
Several of us found our way to Albeit. Here, we discovered a pair of Sturmgeschütz self-propelled assault guns hiding in the diminutive farmstead, which could only be accessed by a single dirt road.
Over the next couple of days, remnants of the mangled German regiment trickled into the area under the cover of darkness. These men were not simply searching for shelter, but also for leadership and direction, since they were all trapped behind enemy lines at this stage. As the most senior of the 2 officers amongst the group, Eckel took it upon himself to organize an impromptu strike force, albeit short of both men and supplies. Their only advantage was their clandestine existence. However, they all knew to a man that this would be fleeting. Therefore, they resolved a makeshift battle plan, and during the early morning hours of the 16th were ready to re-enter the war. Their objective? To do whatever they could to harass and to interdict the Allies from behind their own lines. They called themselves Kampfgruppe Eckel.
An etwa 01:05 Stunden bewegten wir uns aus Albeit und dem versunkenen Tal, in dem wir uns verborgen hatten.
At approximately 015 hours, we moved out of Albeit in the sunken vale in which we had been hiding. We established ambush positions alongside Route D54 and atop the knoll overlooking the roadway. Not long thereafter, a small convoy was detected coming up the road from the west. It consisted, exclusively, of soft vehicles.
Unser Plan war,
Our plan was to block the road at one end with a single Stug, while the other assault guns swept in from behind the column to prevent any escape. This tactic worked very well. The lead transport in the enemy convoy was destroyed by a single snort from the Stug's 75mm cannon. The rest of us immediately opened fire on the remaining vehicles with our collection of small arms. It was, literally, all over in a matter of seconds.
Es war wirklich überall in einer Sache von Sekunden.
Fortunately for us, there was not much return fire from the column, so we managed to preserve most of our cache of ammunition.
Kampfgruppe Eckel quickly went about rounding up the few enemy survivors of the attack and liberated 4 of the convoy's 81mm mortars. They then set ablaze the 2 undamaged trucks and proceeded to return to Albeit. The wounded GIs were cared for by the handful of residents living in the hamlet who, needless to say, were under an extremely watchful eye. The Germans' next task was to begin making preparations for the inevitable American response. As the 4 platoons of Captain Dorn's command began to move out from their jump-off positions beyond the knolls outside Albeit, the surrounding countryside seemed eerily calm. Only the sounds of nature and distant battle could be detected. For the Americans, the relative ease of their approach to the crest of Hill 146 was unsettling. Things were not as they appeared. The time was 10:20 hours. The battle for La Val d'Almont was about to be joined. You're watching Tales of Virtual Combat on His Story International.